Welcome to BNEWS Special Reports. I'm Phil Gallagher, and our topic this evening is the Burlington Volunteer Reserve Corps, or Medical Reserve Corps. My guests are, from my right, Susan Luminello, who is the Director of the Burlington Board of Health, Tony Dardino, no D in there, and Gita Pandit. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start from the beginning, and the origins of the Burlington Volunteer Reserve Corps, and as it relates to, I guess, MRC.
So the Burlington Volunteer Reserve Corps is a medical reserve corps that's sponsored by the Burlington Board of Health, and it is a group of volunteers who are pre-trained and pre-credentialed to help out with public health emergencies and public health initiatives in the town. So the Medical Reserve Corps itself is a national organization under the Assistant Secretary of Preparedness and Response, or ASPR. And we are one unit under that. We're a federally recognized unit under ASPR.
Okay, there's a number of different areas that you're involved with. One is on the medical side, and Tony, you're a nurse, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're involved in the medical aspect of the programs that are being run and the volunteers that participate in it. So what are some of the things that you're doing?
Primarily the vaccination clinics, and some of them are small little groups, some groups of like over 65, or massive groups when we did like the swine flu vaccination, and we take care of the actual injections.
And you were also involved in E. coli, blood pressure, etc. How are those programs run?
There's different educational platforms to teach on blood pressure, CPR, hands only. We also respond to any emergency in the town. When we had contaminated water, we made sure all the restaurants shut down dispensing water to their customers.
So that was the E. coli incident?
Yes.
Not lettuce, right?
Right.
What is that? What is that lettuce called?
That was the
romaine lettuce.
Right.
I saw a funny thing on the net that said that they say eat healthy, eat lettuce, but only cake is what's not recalled. So, we'll go with that. Gita, you're on the organizational side. So you're recruiting, you're logging in the members. Tell us how that works, who can be a member, etc.
Normally they have a recruitment table at the town day, and they've had it at the Indian Americans or Burlington Diwali event. They've also done recruitments at some of the schools when they had like a parent-teacher event. I've been at those tables, and we hand out flyers, and whoever's interested, medical or non-medical, they can apply. There's a phone number they can call up the Burlington Board of Health, and Susan can give them more information. And
are you the webmaster as well?
No.
Okay, who takes care of that?
So we have a state database, so we get support, both state and federal support. So one thing that the state helps us out with is a database called MA Responds to pre-credential all our volunteers, get them Corey checked. So if you want to become a volunteer, you could go right to maresponds.org and choose Burlington Volunteer Reserve Corps under Region 4A. So we're looking for both medical and non-medical volunteers, as long as you're over the age of 18. We do have some volunteers who are under the age of 18 who come they're in high school, and they come with their parents, and then they can become a volunteer after they turn 18. So anybody is welcome to come to the Board of Health office to talk about it if they're interested in joining.
How are you doing in terms of recruitment? What have you got for members at this point?
We have about 168 members, and we have probably about 70% of those are medical, and the other 30% are non-medical. So we need both medical and non-medical volunteers.
And you're involved in the hazardous waste day. I guess you guys run that. Well, I know the Board of Health runs it, but your people are involved in actually staffing it, correct?
They can volunteer. It's really non-committal. Once you volunteer, the training they give you, and you'll just get an email. This need is here, present, and would you like to volunteer? And then you just respond via email, yes, you can be there, no, you can't.
Okay, who's maintaining the email list?
Susan.
Again, that's on the MA Response list. So
Okay.
all of our volunteers are in this database. And in an emergency situation, we can email them out quickly. We can send text messages. We can send phone calls immediately. So that way we have a way of getting in touch with our volunteers right
Reverse
away.
911, for instance?
It's like a reverse 911. So we can actually do it two ways. We could use the town's Code Red system, or we can use our MA Response system.
Now, what about the cell phone issue? Now, a lot of people are cutting their landlines, so then the reverse 911 doesn't work unless everybody is logged in on their cell phone, right?
Right, so we have to rely on our volunteers to make sure they give us the best contact
Oh,
information.
I see, okay.
And if they opt in for text messages, we can text them on their cell phone in an emergency.
Mhm. Now, you're involved in blood pressure as well. Do you collaborate with Leahy Clinic, for instance, and other medical operations in the town, the fire department, for instance?
They've been with us on certain situations. A lot of the firefighters in Burlington do the actual teaching for some of, like, Stop the Bleed, how to
I
respond.
saw that one, yeah.
And a lot of the institutions are become more protective in case of different attacks, especially in terms of children.
Right. Now, we haven't had a major mobilization since 2006, I guess, is when this was
Yes.
initiated, right?
Yes, we've never had to deploy our volunteers in a real emergency.
Mm-hmm.
But if we do, we're ready. Our volunteers have been trained in, we have two requirements, ICS 100, NIMS 700, those are FEMA classes. All volunteers need to be trained in those. And they also need to take an MRC orientation so they know about the organization. And then we offer various trainings throughout the year. So we have psychological first aid, mental health first aid, CPR,
bleed.
we run Stop the Bleed classes, as well as provide them to our volunteers. So some of our volunteers they help us out in all the public health initiatives through the Board of Health. So they help us out with our health fair, the annual flu clinic, which is also emergency dispensing site, which we need both medical and non-medical volunteers for that. If we had a public health emergency in town, like a flu pandemic, and we had to give out vaccine to our residents, we would rely on our volunteers to help us do that. So we train for that every year.
What about localized catastrophes? Fires, people who are displaced, etc. Do you offer services in that regard? Volunteers go down to these sites and take a look at if they can offer help?
So we would work with the different agencies on that. So if we did have to open up a shelter, our volunteers trained for that. So we've had a shelter drill in 2016 that Gita was at, and we practice, have regular trainings for sheltering, so that if we had to open up a shelter, we would rely on our volunteers for that. One of the things that we would need would be nurses as well.
Right. Well, go through what would happen if you had to open up a shelter. What would you be doing during that period of time?
We have been trained to follow the chain of command. So we follow all the instructions that the officer would tell us to do. And even the flu clinic was run in a similar situation. So we had to report to the person who was assigned to us, and if we had any issues, any problems, we go directly to them. So it was run very well, organized.
So typical management structure, various
Yes.
layers of management, somebody heading
Yes.
up the team and everybody else following the lead horse, right? Or the
Yes.
lead dog. Great. So where are some of the locations? Let's say we had, God forbid, let's say we had something bad happen. Where would you mobilize? What facilities would you use if you had to house people, or if you had any number of people that were sick that had to be quarantined, for instance, things of that sort? How would that work?
So if we did end up opening up a shelter, that would be a decision of the emergency management director, and emergency management would be the incident command.
Who's the emergency management director? Is that you in
No,
Burlington?
it's the fire chief, Mike Patterson.
Oh, I see, yeah, okay.
Is emergency management director, and we would assist if he requested assistance from our volunteers.
Mhm.
And right now, our shelter location is 61 Center Street.
That's the center school?
Yes.
Old center school?
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, big gym there?
Yeah, so the gym area and various other
Mhm.
rooms in that would probably serve as dormitory areas.
So you have cots and blankets and everything ready to go?
An emergency management director does.
Yeah,
yeah.
the emergency management. But
And we would assist. We would assist with basically with getting people to staff. So we would have people in food service, people in dormitory, nurses who would, man a first aid station, things like that.
how difficult is the training? Let me see, there's 3 of them, right? There's NIMS 700. I love these government things, NIMS 700, ICS 100, and MRC 101. So what was it like as volunteers for you to participate in this training? And how much time did it take? Did you find it interesting, or like an old timer, would you be falling asleep during the instruction? How was it?
It was not overwhelming, but there is things to take seriously, because if a disaster does happen, you need to know how to keep everything in order. But it wasn't difficult to learn. You could do it in a classroom setting if you prefer, or you could do it online. So they make it very easy, and if there's any problems, they help you along with it.
So if somebody's watching you here today, you'd recommend it as not a difficult thing?
No, it's not difficult, and it gives you more understanding in a disaster, like how things are transpiring and how things are getting done so efficiently and so organized.
How about you, Gina? What was your experience in the training?
I think it's very easy to follow, because they want everyone, whoever volunteers, to be able to understand the core mission of the BBRC. So everything is in different steps. It's broken down in simple steps. It's structured very well. And the classes are not that long. It's about maybe an hour and a half or so. And the one that I went to had an instructor who made it very easy for us to understand if we had any questions. And so
How was it reflected in your personal life, for instance? How you run it at home, how you react to emergencies? Would this be something for the individual that would be worthwhile for them to know, where their fire extinguishers are, those types of things? Was it valuable to you personally?
it definitely makes you more aware of any situation that you want to keep your family safe, and everybody in my house knows where everything is in an emergency situation. So hopefully, if something comes up, they would be ready.
Tony, how about you?
They gave us all backpacks, so we have things in there. So if we had to leave for a couple of days, we'd be okay.
What do you call those? A bug out bag,
A
right?
go bag.
A go bag,
Yes.
go bag, yeah. Well, the criminals call it a bug out bag. A go bag.
Yeah.
Now, in that bag, is there stop the bleed stuff, and is there, other types of
I
tools?
don't have anything like that in there. It's more for my own personal, so that I could get by for a couple of days without being home. Nothing to supply other people with,
I see.
except my knowledge. So
Okay.
they look.
Oh, I
for-
mean, it's a go bag
Yes.
if you have to go to a site and,
Yes.
oh, I see, I
Yes.
see. Okay, change of clothes, things of that
Yes.
sort, hairbrush, toothbrush, etc.
And there are instruction booklets too that we give out every time we have a table set up that that has a list of items that you can put in your go bag, like prescription medications and anything that you would need immediately. Keep it handy. It's a nice booklet that is given out free at all the tables that we have.
What kind of response are you getting? I know you're at Diwali, you're at Burlington Day. Are you at the polls as well? I thought I saw you at the polls one time, which is a big turnout. You might consider that if you haven't been there.
Celebrate Burlington.
Yeah, that's a
The
big one.
town day, yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're getting good response?
We get we get very good response. There's generally a list where people put down their name, phone number, and email so that they can be contacted. And we also hand out the phone number of the Board of Health so they can, directly contact and get the information.
So you're growing at this point? What's an optimum number of people that you would like to have?
So
in the future?
We can never have enough as people, both medical and non-medical people, because we want to make sure that we have enough people in the event that we did have a real life emergency. So we could call on other MRC units. So that is one thing about the Medical Reserve Corps, is that if we had an emergency here in Burlington and our volunteers were not able to respond and we needed help, we could ask another MRC unit from another part of the state for
Come
their
and
volunteers
respond.
to come and help
Mutual
us, and vice
assistance like
versa.
a fire, sure.
Yes, yes.
Sure. Now, what kind of support are you getting financially and political support in terms of the Board of Selectmen, town meeting, et cetera?
So we are funded mainly through grants. So we have grants from the federal program. So we have, it's the Public Health and Emergency Preparedness Grant, and the state funding as well. But we do get support from the town in that the Board of Health staff spends time on MRC programs and try to help support the MRC. So a lot of the Board of Health staff works on these programs. They're also, not only are they MRC programs, but they're also public health initiatives and programs as well.
You're
A lot of the
elected.
things that we do in the Board of Health we couldn't do without our volunteers.
Right, right.
For instance, the flu clinic.
Right, sure. And you have advocates obviously on the board. I mean, you've got Dr. Saltzman, you got Dr. Weiner, et cetera. Who's the third member?
We have 5 members,
5 members.
of the Board of
Okay,
Health.
great,
yeah.
Phil. Glad to see you're on top of that.
So Dr. Ed Weiner is the chairman.
35 years. I
David
think.
McSweeney is vice chair.
David, yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
And
yeah.
then Dr. Wayne Saltzman, Libby Wallenjevitz, and Mary Beth Welch.
Okay, great.
It's our 5-member Board of Health.
I knew that. I was testing you. Okay, so let's hope that that we don't have any kind of an event that would require your mobilization. How many people do you want to ultimately have within the organization?
Well, so when you look at the population of Burlington, we have, what, 25,000 or so?
500, about 125 in the daytime.
Right, right, and we have 168 volunteers. So when you look at that, you know, we need a lot more volunteers. If we had to, say we did have to open up an emergency dispensing site in town, we would need, and we had to vaccinate 25,000 people, we're gonna need a lot more volunteers to do something like that. So we're always, there is no number where we say we think we have enough. And it's always great to have volunteers who are active, who want to get involved in the programs and do the training. But even if you'd like to volunteer and learn about us and then help out in an emergency situation, you can do that. We don't expect that you put in any amount of time per year or anything. It's
well,
up to
there's
you.
always work to be done. Something has to be carried, tables have to be put up,
Yes.
et cetera.
Mhm.
Tony, tell me, in your vocational training as a nurse, was part of the curriculum that you actually had to respond to catastrophic events, or poisonings or gases, or whatever type of thing?
That's not part of just a regular, like, nursing education. Everything that you do is up to you to try to extrapolate that kind of knowledge. I worked in ICU, for instance, and there's no ICU school. If you're a labor and delivery nurse, there's no labor and delivery. So recently, I was asked to help learn how to co-teach a prevention of falling for the elderly, which was very interesting. So that will be something just
Well, we
knowing-
have a juggling course right here at BCAT that you can use it's called Juggling for Old Folks. You might want to take a look at that.
That actually is one of our new Medical Reserve Corps programs, Matter of Balance program.
Really?
So we collaborated with Leahy Health, and we have a number of our volunteers who are trained as Matter of Balance coaches. Did you take that one?
Yes.
Yeah, so Tony
Yes.
is one of our coaches, and we did offer, it's an 8-week, 2-hour program, and we offered it at the COA.
You collaborated with Marge there.
Yes, well, we had it, we're gonna collaborate again in the fall, and we had we had this course, and we're gonna do it again. So it's for people who are afraid of falling, or who have a fear of falling or
Right. Not
Maybe.
necessarily have fallen, but maybe you have a fear, and then
Right.
those that have fallen, that it's affected their lives,
Mhm.
and so that we could like call in occupational therapists, or just do some teaching with them in their home and just encourage them.
CDC reported that 27,000 elderly people last year suffered either major injuries or resulting in death as a result. So it is something
Serious,
yes.
for us old timers to be concerned about.
So if anyone is interested in taking the class, we're going to have another one starting up in the springtime. And we hope to offer it twice a year.
Well, we should go up there and film that for you.
Great.
Do a program on it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk to the boss here. I'm not the boss, as you know. I'm a volunteer as well. I suppose I should be joining the Reserve Corps here. Okay, well, any further comments that you'd like to make about the Reserve Corps? Any recruitment ideas that you'd like to present?
No, but I have to say that the volunteers also volunteer their time at the blood drives.
Yes.
It's with Leahy and
American Red Cross.
Red
Yes,
Cross,
We
yeah,
partner
they go
with
down
them.
the Legion, right? They do the Legion
The
one?
and the
Legion,
Legion. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to get quite it's well received. I know I'm down there and see that there's quite a number of people that are laying in there, or up at Leahy, I've seen that one as well.
You must have seen our volunteers there.
I must have,
Yeah.
because I maybe not know all of them, but I know a few of them, I'm sure. Okay, that's it for this segment of the program. I'd like to thank our guest, Susan Luminello, Director of the Burlington Board of Health, correct?
Director of Public Health.
Director of Public Health. Okay, like that. Tony Dardina, Gita Pandit, thank you both, all, for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Both, three of you, all three of you for joining us. Thank you very much. Where's my shot? There we go. Thank you. Our ace director is giving me that shot for our outro. This has been Burlington BNEWS Weekly Special Report, Medical Reserve Corps. Thank you for joining us.